In college, I would go home every other weekend to work at the job I had since high school. I would drive directly from campus after my last class on Friday to my job, which was about an hour-long drive, and after my shift was done, I'd go back to my parents' house, which was out in the middle of nowhere. My parents weren't yet home when I got back from work. So the house was dark, and since it was mid-fall, so was the yard, save for the yard light. I had pulled into my normal parking spot, got out of the car, and then turned to open the back door of my car and get my backpack out of the seat. That's when I noticed that the bathroom light was on. Was that light on when I pulled up? It must have been, right? As I was contemplating the light and reaching for my backpack, there was suddenly a very angry-looking old woman standing in the window staring at me. We're not talking resting bitch face here either. She was pissed off and I knew it. We stood there staring at each other for a good 10 seconds when my parents pulled into the driveway and distracted me from my stare down with the woman in the bathroom. By this time I turned back, the light was still on, but the woman was gone.
When my mother was young, she had an imaginary friend named Shaggy. When she got a little older, she told her mother that she was finished with Shaggy, so she got rid of him. Well, my grandmother asked her what she meant, and she said, "Well, I chopped him up and I put him in the fridge."
There it goes again. Something definitely moved this time. It was very brief, but out of the corner of your eye you saw something. But wait, all the doors are locked. No pets, and your parents won't get home till 10. So there's no way something moved. It's just your imagination getting the best of you. Sitting alone in your room, the only light emitting from the monitor of your computer. You stare into the darkness for several minutes, just to be sure. Now you feel silly. What were you thinking? Of course there's nothing there. What are you, 6? Go back to what you were doing. 15 minutes later, as you prepare to go to bed, you're in the bathroom. The shower curtains shift. Wait, no. Stop spooking yourself. It's just an overactive imagination, filling your head with what isn't really there. You gaze into the mirror at yourself. You say it to yourself slowly and clearly. Imagination. With a sigh, you turn off the lights and head towards your room. Laying in bed, you stare at your ceiling, dark and foreboding. The only motion of a small fan disturbing the calmness of the night. A shadow from the light in the hall shifts. No, stop it. It's your imagination, just that. Go to sleep. But then, just when you're about to drift off to sleep, at the phase no one remembers when they wake, you sense something in the darkness. It's your imagination leering down at you with a jagged, macabre smile. Suddenly, you hear the front door creak open. Whew, you can finally get some sleep. You call out to your mom, hoping she'd lock the door so you don't have to go downstairs. She doesn't respond, but it's nothing too unusual. Her hearing's been a bit dodgy recently, probably due to her new boss. She shuffles into the kitchen, and you return your gaze back to the screen of your laptop. True, you need to sleep as soon as possible, but there were a few things to do first. As you refresh your newsfeed for the 10th time, you spot something on the screen. No, not on the screen, reflected onto it. Something in the window behind you. You whip around, but there isn't anything out there in the darkness. It's probably nothing, just a bug or whatever. You turn back to Facebook and pick up the latest on some giant argument between some popular kids. You refresh to keep up with the stream of new comments, when all of a sudden you lose connection. Dumb fucking router. It always cuts out on you at random moments. You make a mental note to remind your mom, who's fiddling around in the kitchen still, to buy a new one. You get up, walk out of your room, and thump down the stairs. Disgruntled, you walk into the living room and crouch down next to the main computer to restart the router. Strange, the lights on it are all off, as if it's been unplugged. Whatever. As you go to turn on the router, the phone on the desk begins to ring. You stand up, narrowly missing the edge of the table to pick it up. Hey sweetie, I'm so sorry, the train's been late again. Ugh. I'll be home in a bit. I'm sorry I'm making you wait up for me, it's just that. And the line goes dead. About 10 years ago, my 3-year-old son and I moved to a new house. It was a very old building, and the inside of the house always seemed to be just a little darker and just a little colder than it should have been. Not long after we moved in, a friend of mine came to visit. The whole time we were sitting and talking, she seemed very uncomfortable. When I looked at her face, I noticed that something in the other room had caught her attention. Her eyes grew wide and she said, "I have to go." I asked her what was wrong, but she refused to tell me. Her odd reaction was freaking me out, so I kept after her. On her way out the door, she finally blurted out, "This house is haunted." But she wouldn't tell me what it was to make her think so. To this day, she still refuses to tell me what she saw. About a week later, my 3-year-old son casually asked me who the old lady in the bathroom was. One day as I was leaving for work, but once I got in the car, I realized I needed to run back in the house to get something. I walked into the house, and as soon as I got inside, this framed photo on the wall shot off the wall. It didn't fall down. It shot horizontally away from the wall, and it landed on a mosaic table with enough force to break some of the tiles off of it. I felt like whatever was in the house was pissed off that I came back in after it, though it thought I had left for the day. After living in the house for about 6 months, I noticed a weird square cut in the boards on the deck. There was no handle, but I was able to pry it up. The hole was just big enough to fit through, and there was a ladder going down. For some reason, I went down and found myself in what looked like a homemade basement. It was basically just a room dug out of the earth, with no constructed walls or stone supports or anything like that. It was very dark, but I could see something over in the corner. It was a suspicious-looking stone. It looked like one of those old headstones you see in cemeteries. Just then, some insects started jumping on me, so I got out of that basement as fast as I could and never went back. Now, this is the part that affected me the most. It's also the reason we left the house. One night I was in bed, laying on my stomach, just about to fall asleep. I heard someone walk into the room. The footsteps came from the doorway over to my bed. I didn't realize until later that the fact that I heard the footsteps was weird, because the room was carpeted. When the footsteps reached my bed, I felt someone put their hands on my back. 2 hands, just gently laid flat on my back and kept there. I assumed it was my son. "What are you doing?" I asked, but there was no answer. I looked up and no one was there. I got up and checked my son's bedroom, but he was in bed, fast asleep. We moved out soon after that. Have you ever heard the expression, "An apple a day keeps the doctor away"? Most assume, with no reason to think otherwise, that it is simply an easy-to-remember rhyme that stresses the importance of eating healthy to young children. But the saying did not originate as a harmless reminder. It was born in a frontier town in the early years of the gold rush, where food was scarce and money was even scarcer. One August, when a bad drought had struck the region, a series of bloody killings swept through the town. Every night a single house would be broken into, and anyone who saw the invader would be brutally slain. Nothing was ever stolen, save for a few scraps of food. After 2 weeks of this, the local grocer set out a few apples and a glass of milk in the town square overnight. He then hid in the tower of the church, hoping to catch a glimpse of anyone who came by. Fighting fatigue, the grocer waited for any sign of life below. Just after midnight, he was rewarded by a chilling sight. A man carrying a black bag stuffed with dully shining metal tools and covered from head to foot in cloth bandages staggered into view. He paused at the sight of the apples and milk, then whipped his head around as if looking for the one who dared patronize him. Seized with fear, the grocer ducked out of sight, staying hidden till sunrise. The strange man had only taken one of the apples and didn't even touch the glass of milk. No houses were broken into and no one was killed. For decades, the town continued to place out an apple or two every night, even long after a single apple stopped disappearing. Hello there. It's funny how after all this time, I still don't know your name. But it doesn't even matter anyway, as long as I know you. Yeah, I know you seem confused right now. I know you enough to tell you this message will give you a reaction like that. But you shouldn't be. Well, at least not for long. You see, I was with you this whole time. I was right next to you for the last few years or so. I was watching you sleep, heard you talk with your friends, and I know what you had for lunch, usually every day. You almost saw me quite a few times. I had to hide from you a lot. You know that time when you felt someone behind you, and just as you turn around to look, no one was there? Well, there was. You only didn't see me. As I was watching you, I realized that you're actually a good person, and I grew quite fond of you. And for the last few days, I was trying to find a way to talk to you, but I knew you would be afraid when you hear my voice, just like last time. Instead, I got a better idea. I saw you using this device quite a lot, and I saw you like to visit a website like this. So I wrote this message to you, hoping you would read it one day. Now that you are reading it, I told you what I wanted to tell you. I think now you are prepared enough to see me. We can finally be friends. I will show you my face tonight.
One day, a young married couple went hiking in the mountains. As the sun began to set, they realized that they were lost. The wife was getting worried, but her husband tried to calm her down and assure her that everything would eventually be all right and they would find their way back to their car. However, after walking for hours, they still had no idea where they were. It was growing dark and the man and wife were just getting desperate. They didn't have a map or a compass with them, and all the trees started to look the same. Just when they were about to give up hope, they came across an old cabin in a clearing. The cabin looked as if it had seen better days. It was dilapidated and it seemed like it hadn't been used in a long, long time. Some of the windows were cracked and broken, and a lot of the tiles had fallen off the roof. The husband knocked on the front door, but there was no response. When he turned the handle, it slowly creaked open. Inside, they found that it was in a bad state of disrepair. There was very little furniture, and the floor was covered in a thick layer of dust. As the couple cautiously looked around, they noticed a strange atmosphere and a peculiar musty smell. The walls were covered from floor to ceiling with graffiti, and written in red paint, the words "Death, Death, Death, Death" were repeated over and over again. The man and woman were unnerved. With a shaking hand, the husband reached out to touch the wall. He was horrified to find that the paint was not yet dry. The couple was very frightened, but they had nowhere else to go. They knew that the mountain was dangerous at night and there were a lot of wild animals prowling the woods. Despite the creepy writing on the walls, they decided to stay the night. Going upstairs, they found a moth-eaten mattress that was covered in stains. The husband and wife wrapped themselves in an old piece of carpet to keep warm and tried to make themselves as comfortable as possible under the circumstances. They lay down together on the mattress and eventually managed to fall asleep. Sometime after midnight, the couple were awakened by a strange rustling noise. It sounded like someone or something was moving around outside. "Did you hear that?" asked his wife. "I think there's somebody out there." Her husband listened for a while, but he didn't hear anything. So he got out of bed and walked over to the window. Of course, it was too dark outside to see anything, so opening the window, he stuck his head out. "Who's out there?" he called nervously. There was no answer. He was about to go back to bed when his wife said, "Maybe it's someone who can't speak." The husband returned the window. "Is there anybody out there? Clap once for yes and twice for no." He strained his ears to listen. The stars twinkled in the night sky, the crickets were chirping loudly, and all of a sudden he heard a loud clap. The man turned to his wife and said in surprise, "You were right. There's someone out there." He leaned out the window and his eyes scanned in the darkness. He couldn't make anything in the pitch black. "Are you the owner of this cabin?" he asked. Clap, clap. "Are you a man?" Clap, clap. "You're a woman then?" Clap, clap. "Are you human?" Clap, clap. A chill ran down his spine. He swallowed hard and croaked, "Did you come here alone?" Clap, clap. "Well, how many people are with you?" Clap once for each person. Clap, 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 clap. And the clapping went on and on. The man and woman looked at each other, got up, and ran out of the house as fast as they could. If you like what you heard, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends. If you'd like to, you can follow me at Twitter. The handle is @FuzzyPantaloons, and I'll see you all next time.